Господине Малијар, француската перспектива во моментот. Има ли умекнување во ставовите на францускиот председател Макрон?
Well, I believe that France really wants this country to enter the EU sooner or later, but I mean there is no question that France does not want this country to come to join. It's really obvious that France is committed and as well for Albania, that these countries will one day join. It's not like, for instance, I wouldn't compare this to when de Gaulle had put his veto on the UK back in the 60s. At this time it was really a straight no, because he was a veto to the UK to enter, but this time it wasn't a no for North Macedonia to join the EU, it was a no to the ongoing process as it is, because France wants to reform that method, to have a new methodology, to have a new way of proceeding. But it's not a no to the country as such, which has, of course, has a true European perspective. And so I believe if we have a chance to overcome this problem of methodology and the way we negotiate the country's entrance, I think we can have some positive development in this coming year.
Какви се шансите Македонија да добие датум следниот Европски совет на 26 и 27 марта?
It's difficult at this stage to say how this summit will proceed. I mean, but it could happen that in this upcoming European summit, there could be a possibility for this question to be raised again at this level of the head of state of government, and for them to decide, yes, to set a date for the opening of the negotiation of the accession. But it's not sure yet. I mean, we're right now we're waiting for the European Commission to deliver its new proposal of this new way of proceeding for negotiations, and I think we will have it probably on the 29th of January. France will have a close look at it, see if some of its ideas have been put there on paper. Some other countries also have their own opinion on how to proceed, but if we agree, if the existing member states agree on this new methodology, on this new procedure, if they can agree on March, then I think, yes, this really would pave the way to set the date to begin the accession. So, and I'm they are committed to find a solution before the 7th of May, which is the summit, as you know, in Zagreb, between the EU and the Western Balkans. So they have to find it before that date. So March is one window, one opportunity. And it could be perhaps before, or afterwards, but anyways before this summit in the Balkans, in Zagreb.
Макрон на средбата со Пленковиќ изјави дека сака успешна и единствена Европа на самитот во мај. Како да ја толкуваме оваа негова изјава?
Well, I think again France doesn't want to play the bad cop in saying, we don't want this enlargement. Again, I think France is very clear that the Balkans have the right to join the EU, and I think he really is keen on moving in this issue, because we all know that the Balkans are back on the agenda today, on the EU agenda, and with this new commission, with also Josep Borrell, the High Representative, they all made, and the Commissioner for Enlargement, I think, will be visiting your country very soon. There are many statesmen saying that we must do something about it. We cannot. No one knows that this present statu quo it can be a solution forever. So I think there is a common feeling that we must deliver and must go on, but not. But with this new method and new methodology. France has put some ideas on the table. Other countries like Italy and others have put them. The Commission will come up, as I said, with its own proposal, and then that's what negotiation is about: is finding the right method, and then we can move on. But I think there's France doesn't want to be again in that role of veto. That's not what that's not how they see its mission. But we don't want an ever bigger union just for the sake of it. I mean, the purpose of enlargement is not just let's go and everyone can come in whatever price. It's really we I think insist that the EU is something too serious to be, we have also learned from the past that there were some previous enlargements where perhaps things were not really in depth. It was just sometimes taking over laws, but not really see how fully implemented they were. So I think it takes time also for both the population in this country, but also our population in our countries to get to know each other better, to really understand each other more, get to know each other much more before working, because once we'll be inside the same EU family, we will share a lot. We'll share policies. It's a real commitment. We will have to trust each other, and you cannot. Trust has to be built. It takes time to build trust. You don't do it overnight. So once we get to know each other much more, and that's the purpose of this negotiation, then I think we can move on much faster.
Зошто овој страв кај француските граѓани околу проширувањето? Имаме впечаток дека не се знае доволно состојбата на Балканот, но сепак се става оној знак стоп за влез во ЕУ.
It's not just the Balkans, it was even for all the Eastern European countries, even though when Spain and Portugal wanted, there was always the fear that a bigger EU is a weaker EU, and it's that there was a fear that France will sort of completely be lost in that big EU, and so there was some very negative narrative put to it. Also, the issue of Turkey, which is a candidate country, also negotiating, although it's on a standstill. There was a big fear that if such a big, huge country comes in, then this will transform the EU completely. And so, what does that really mean? So, because of this Turkish issue, which is completely another story, and because of the fear that the EU will not work properly, there was a general rejection in the public opinion, but it's not hinted at any particular country. It's just the process itself, and I think it's part of a French government's job to also show that it can work another way. That enlargement doesn't mean that. It's true that before as you know, the EU started with 6 members, and then we were 9, then 10, then 12, then 15, and then suddenly 25, then 27, and now 28. Then back to 27 after the Brexit. But when we stepped from 15 to 25, that was a huge step forward compared to the previous enlargement, which had been done, with say 3 countries at a slower pace. I think also there's such a lack of knowledge in France of this part of Europe. I think for many French, but I don't think only French, but many other people, they don't really know exactly where these countries are. They are discovering them, and I think that's what I was referring. We need to know each other much more. We should know, because when you're part of the EU, when we put in common our budget, when we put our borders, when we will share, where the goods will travel, as in the single market, you need trust, and in order to have trust, you need to know each other much more deeply. And I think the time of this negotiation must also be used not just to negotiate technically on laws and on rates but also on people's getting to know each other much better. And I think that will benefit everyone.